Arcfieldweather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday morning, the first day of the month of February. Two big stories we'll talk about this morning. First of all, another ice storm for places like Texas, Arkansas, into the Tennessee Valley over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. That same part of the country experienced an ice storm earlier this week. Well, another one is beginning now, and again, it'll extend all the way from Texas into places like Tennessee and Kentucky, and that will certainly include Arkansas as well over the next couple of days. Meanwhile, looking to the end of the work week, we have an Arctic blast coming to the northeastern part of the nation. It'll impact the mid-Atlantic region as well. Some severe cold, albeit a short-lived experience. It looks like it'll last from Friday into Saturday, but severe cold nonetheless coming to places like Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, even down to D.C. They ought to drop into the low teens late Friday night, early Saturday morning. So we'll talk about that as well. Before we get to the weather situation, I wanted to kind of make a programming note here. Just wanted to point out that I often post updates in the afternoon to arcfieldweather.com. This, for example, was a posting yesterday afternoon regarding the snowfall that occurred last night in the I-95 corridor region. In fact, by the way, Philadelphia and New York City actually recorded their first measurable snow of the season so far, albeit on the light side, 0.3 inches in Philadelphia, 0.4 inches in New York City. Very small amounts, but nonetheless broke the streak of no measured snow throughout this winter season so far. But again, this was posted yesterday afternoon. A couple of days ago, I posted something that is now on our medium range outlooks page regarding the month of February and even into the month of March, kind of a look ahead. Certainly looks like there'll be some more cold air outbreaks for the western and central U.S. and much of the eastern U.S. as well. Probably a stormier pattern returns to California. They've had dry weather over the past 10 days or so. Certainly looks like that'll become more stormy again out for the Golden State, probably beginning during the first week in February. By the way, Florida remains warm, it looks like, for the next several weeks, probably right into spring training season, which I believe this year begins late this month, late in the month of February. There's been a stubborn ridge of high pressure over the southeastern U.S., over the southwestern Atlantic, protecting Florida for any kind of cold air masses. It looks like that'll be the case over the next several weeks. So again, refer back to arcfieldweather.com during the afternoon to see if there's been an updated afternoon posting. Well, before we take a look at the actual surface forecast maps, and we'll also take a look at 850 millibar temperature anomalies using last night's Canadian model run. This is the total freezing rain amount for the next 48 hours going over the next couple of days. And this is a new storm for Texas and Arkansas. And all of this is sleet and freezing rain extending from Texas over the next day or two across Arkansas with some significant amounts, places like Dallas, Texas, all the way up to near Little Rock, Arkansas, and even into Tennessee and Kentucky. There'll be some ice problems. So another serious ice storm for the south central part of the U.S. Texas and Arkansas got hit hard earlier this week. And again, another storm just getting underway today, and it'll last over the next couple of days from Texas all the way to the Tennessee Valley. Meanwhile, big time story number 2 here is the Arctic blast headed for the northeastern part of the country. It'll also impact the eastern Great Lakes, the mid-Atlantic region. These are the forecast lows on Saturday morning from last night's European model run. Just take a look at some of these actual air temperatures. These are not wind chill values, but actual air temperatures as much as 25 to 30 below in Maine and throughout much of New Hampshire, Vermont, even upstate New York, 25 to 30 below by Saturday morning. This would be really Friday night, Saturday morning, just brutally cold, and all the way down to New York City, maybe between 0 and 5 degrees, likely by early Saturday morning, probably single digits in some of the Philadelphia suburbs, and maybe the low to middle teens in some of those DC suburbs by early Saturday morning. Now, this will be a short-lived Arctic blast, really encompassing the days of Friday and Saturday. But nonetheless, it'll be some severe cold. And if you get a bursting pipe on Friday night, it won't matter to you that it's only a 2-day event here. Again, some severe cold coming, especially Friday night. By the way, throughout this 48-hour time period, Friday night, and Saturday, wind chills will be painfully low. Some very, very cold, low wind chill values expected because the winds will be quite strong. At the same time, the air temperature will be well below zero in parts of much of New England, New York State, and again, all the way down into Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Expect some single-digit lows by early Saturday morning. Well, let's take a look at the operational run of the Canadian model from 0Z last night as we begin the day here on Wednesday morning, February 1st. And again, we had pretty much the first measurable snow of the season from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City, about a half an inch in places like New York City and Philadelphia, and a coating in some of the northern and western suburbs. Not a big deal, but compared to what we've had this winter, it may have seemed like a big deal to a lot of people. This is the storm that produced an ice event in Texas and Arkansas a couple of days ago. And here we go, round two, another storm that will produce some significant icing in Texas and Arkansas and all the way into the Tennessee Valley. Let's move forward here. Look at all these purple shadings. That is sleet or freezing rain from Texas. It'll extend into Arkansas over the next 12 to 24 hours or so. This is the Thursday morning forecast map. And then into the Tennessee Valley. Now, it looks like this system will stay south of the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. This is the Thursday evening forecast map. And here's one key player right here. This is that Arctic frontal system that will be showing up on the maps right here come Thursday evening. And this will be certainly a high impact type of frontal passage for the Mid-Atlantic Northeast U.S. on Friday. You'll know you'll be in an Arctic air mass if you go outside midday or in the afternoon on Friday. Let's move forward in time here. A couple of frames here. Here we go now by Friday morning. Here is that Arctic frontal system coming through Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, D.C. early Friday morning. And then we move ahead into Friday afternoon and Friday evening. And by the way, at this particular time, notice the wind flow. If you're looking for the type of trajectory of air in New England for the coldest possible temperatures, it likely is what we're going to experience later Friday night. This kind of flow, first of all, high pressure over in this region right here. Winds blow clockwise around highs. That is a discharge of air in this fashion right into New England. This right here, kind of hard to see. This is Hudson Bay in Canada, which is virtually ice covered right now, the Great Lakes here. So if you have a wind flow out of the north to northwest going into Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, it's with this kind of a trajectory, it's all land. Coming off the land here, not any of the frozen Hudson Bay, but this is likely to produce some of the coldest temperatures you can get this time of the year. Look at these thickness values, by the way. 474 is some incredibly cold air, way below zero. By the way, they have a lot of snow cover across Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, so that'll certainly add to the intensity of the severe cold later Friday night time frame. Now let's move forward in time here a little bit. And here we go by Saturday morning. That strong high pressure system sitting right on top of the Mid-Atlantic region. And again, 25 to 30 degrees below zero and throughout much of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, probably the northern half of New York State also maybe 25 degrees below, probably 0 to 5 degrees for a low late Friday night, early Saturday morning in New York City. I expect certainly single digits in many of the suburbs of Philadelphia, maybe the lower teens in some of the suburbs of D.C. Now, this is a 2-day event. By the time we get to Saturday night, notice that high shifts off the coast already. And on the back side, you have southwesterly flow starting to develop, and that'll pump in certainly more normal-like air for the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. by the time we get to Sunday. In fact, let's move out ahead into Sunday morning. And here we go. More of a southwesterly flow of air by the time we get to Sunday. So the real brutal cold will be on Friday and Saturday for the Northeast U.S. and Mid-Atlantic, parts of the Great Lakes as well. But by the time we get to Sunday, we'll be somewhat close to normal again, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Now let's take a look at how this plays out with respect to the 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Again, we've had this dividing line right here for the last several days, right in this region right here, with very cold air to the north and west, very warm air to the south and east. Again, that high pressure ridging aloft sitting over the southwestern part of the Atlantic Ocean. And this boundary zone right here has been kind of a conduit for moisture, low pressure systems to move from Texas into the Mid-Atlantic region, and will continue to act that way as a boundary zone, an active boundary zone over the next couple of days. Now, cold air right now throughout much of the northern half of the Mid-Atlantic region and throughout Northeast U.S. as well. We move forward here, and here comes that Arctic blast right here by the time we get to Thursday evening, and this has an Arctic frontal zone right at the leading edge of that Arctic air, and this is some impressive cold here. By the time we get to Friday morning, we're talking 25 to 30 degrees below normal for the early part of February with snow cover. That is some darn cold air, and again, we're headed towards 25 to 30 degrees below zero actual air temperatures by the time we get to Friday night, early Saturday morning from upper New York State across the northern part of New England. Here we go all the way into Friday evening, and look at these temperature anomalies, just incredible. Again, thankfully, just a short-lived two-day event here, Friday and Saturday. This is Saturday afternoon. Already you see on the backside of the high some warmer than normal conditions at the 850 millibar level across the central states, and that does move into the Mid-Atlantic region by the time we get to Sunday. So a two-day event for an Arctic blast in the northeastern quadrant of the nation, Friday and Saturday. But it will be severe cold, and those wind chills will be painfully low throughout that 48-hour period, Friday night, and Saturday. So that's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.